Well, good morning on this lovely sunny Monday morning. It feels so much better to say that than I did at my events on Friday where I had to just announce through liquid sunshine all day. But that's okay because we're going to have beautiful spring flowers soon and I'll be happy about that. So welcome to I guess it's kind of the rebirth of the Fayette County Tourism Summit. It's been about, a minute. How long, Ann? Maybe 8 years since we've had a summit, so we're pretty excited to be here today. Right off the bat, though, I want to say thank you to the Fayette County Fair and the folks that are here with us today for donating the use of this facility for us today and calling in the middle of the day yesterday to make sure it was all set up perfectly, which we very much appreciate. So let's give the Fayette County Fair a hand. I know most of you, but just in case, I am Muriel Nuttall. I am the Executive Director of the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce, and I am just one piece of the 3 co-chairs of the Fayette County Tourism Alliance. If you're here from, you are a member of the Chamber, welcome. If you're not, welcome anyway, you need to join. I feel like I have to say that, right? Fayette County Chamber, my 2 seconds is about 630 members strong. That means we represent about 17,000 employees throughout Fayette County and beyond our borders. Good organization, just to be out there helping our business community to grow and be a part of it. And Wendy and Kathy, who are sitting over there, they're going to wave. If you have any questions about the chamber, you can go over and ask them. Really excited to have you here today. We have great speakers, but first I'm going to let that sounds fun. I'm going to have our co-chairs introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Sarah Collier. I'm the Executive Director of the National Road Heritage Corridor, celebrating the 90 miles of the historic National Road throughout southwestern Pennsylvania, which traverses, there we go, Monday morning talking, there we are, all of Fayette County. Pennsylvanians consistently rank traveling to historic places as their #1 reason for traveling, and I feel incredibly lucky to work in Fayette County where we have so many wonderful opportunities and such a beautiful place to house these historic assets. The National Road is really interested in community development in main streets and particularly in heritage tourism. I'm so excited to see you all here today, and I hope you get a lot out of it, and I look forward to everything we do together.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Namanick, and I'm the Executive Director of Go Laurel Highlands. This should be a perfect example of what you need to do and what you shouldn't do. You can't do it alone. You do need to collaborate, and you need to work together. And I'm very proud to be a member of the Chamber and very proud to represent and market an historic length of trail passage, because it was a trail many, many years ago. It wasn't done by car. It was done by horse and buggy, and portions of it, young George Washington walked and rode on that. So there is significant history here in Fayette County. You're here to, what I call, get some nuggets of knowledge. So we're really excited about the group that we've assembled here today. Couldn't do it without all of you coming out and joining us today. So we're real excited to get things started. I can go ahead. All right. Here we go. So when we first started, we were like, okay, who do you invite? Who do you bring? Who do you kind of lead things off with? And we thought we'd go with a bigger picture. So I said, I know just the gentleman who can do that for us. So I've known Pete, we were trying to think 10 years, at least probably. So our first presenter is with Red House Communications. And Red House Communications is based in Pittsburgh. But Pete's background, he is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Red House Communications. He has 20 years of experience, so please ask questions as we move through his presentation. He has developed tremendously successful marketing strategies and campaigns for brands that are both international, national, and right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. His clients include Pennsylvania Tourism, Go Laurel Highlands, Visit Erie, the Department of Health in Maryland, the Department of Health in Pennsylvania. He also has worked with Walmart, AT&T, and BMW are some of his bigger clients through the years. The one thing that I think is interesting too is it's very diverse. So when you think about what the room is assembled with, we have nonprofits, we have for-profits, we have a UNESCO World Heritage Site, we have a DMO, we have a 5-star world-class resort in Nemacolin. So I think having somebody that has that broad knowledge of so many ways to touch people is so critically important. So with Red House, obviously he works with the day-to-day operations with the agency, but he's also somebody I consider who digs deep. And I think you did this on purpose. He's a graduate of Penn State University, but also received his MBA in marketing from the University of Maryland. So he just wanted to make sure that Mason-Dixon line, I think, was represented when you went after clients, right? Smart strategist, I think, from the very, very beginning. So just a little bit about Red House Communications. They are an integrated marketing organization, and they are a media agency that's based on the south side of Pittsburgh. Very cool building, been there, just really neat offices and so forth. An open concept yet private meeting space. It was one of the best uses of space I've seen in an old historic building. That was really, really well done. They were founded in 1993, and they have obviously created thousands and thousands of very good and very successful campaigns and integrated television. So I'm going to list all the forms of media. So all of you may know some of this, and you may not. So we have television, radio, I have to read this, print, outdoor, direct mail, sponsorship, outreach, digital advertising, video, paid social, paid search, display, and influencer marketing. And you're going to learn a little bit about TikTok and what it can and can't do these days, because it's obviously in the news. So we are extremely proud to have Pete Baird join us today from Red House Communications.
Thanks, Anna. And after an introduction like that, you might want to prepare to be underwhelmed. But I am Pete Baird. I'm the Senior Vice President, Managing Director at Red House, and thank you for spending your time here this morning. So I think what I'd like to talk about really is the tourism traveler. What does the traveler look like who's coming to the state of Pennsylvania? And more specifically, what does the traveler who's coming to Fayette County look like? And what are the implications for you as business owners and leaders in the community? So I'll try to keep it short, because I don't think anybody ever went to a presentation or some sort of talk and said, boy, I wish that guy had talked for longer, especially at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. So the idea is, if you have questions or comments throughout, please raise your hand. Let's have a dialogue. I'm going to leave a lot of time at the end so that we can just talk in general, because I don't want this to be just me talking at you. I think it'll be a much better and more engaging dialogue if it is just that, if we're talking back and forth. So, to begin, I'll talk about what is the travel outlook writ large. And just as a preview, it's very promising. So, we're going to talk a good bit about who is the traveler, who were they historically, and how has that travel audience changed over time. We're going to focus in on two key segments, which I'll define in that section. Then we'll talk about those audiences. What are their interests? What are their perceptions? What are their motivations? And then we'll get to implications for Fayette County. But please, anytime if you have something you'd like to comment or dig deeper on, let's do just that. So we'll begin. The travel outlook. Travel and leisure. It's clear that people are thinking about travel this year. Getting away from the daily routine, even briefly, provides relaxation, enjoyment, enrichment, and health benefits. Who in here has planned a vacation for the summer? I mean, who's excited about it? I mean, in so many ways, travel has been held back the last few years. We start to open up more last year, but I think this is the first year where people are feeling really good about getting out there and traveling. I think we're past the pandemic at this point. People want to get back out there and experience things again. And I think that's a lot of what we'll talk about today. Experiences are so key to this travel audience. And I think Fayette County has a lot to offer people along those lines. So, 91% of Americans plan to travel in 2023. 86% will travel out of state. And I want to focus mainly on the last point. 67% are planning a road trip. Has anyone done plane travel recently? Was it a miserable experience for you? Yeah, it was for me as well when I last did it. So I think the idea of getting in the car and going somewhere is even more appealing than it ever was before. Because we were, through no one's choice or wanting to, we were all very confined for a long period of time. And plane travel, it just gets worse and worse. So when we talk about attracting people to Pennsylvania, we are really focused on people who are in a drivable distance. And that is so much of the work that we do with the state. That's who we're focused on. So, for you, I think it is to think about all the resources and assets that Fayette County has that people might want to come and have a road trip. And to have your car is so key here, because I think there are so many things that are just in a drivable distance, the range of experiences that you can have. And I think that's something that Fayette County has that is very much in sync with what travelers want. Nearly 2/3 of Americans feel optimistic about travel in 2023. And this optimism is stoked by the joy of having plans to look forward to. We're all dealing with inflation, and I talked just now about plane travel, and that becomes even more inconvenient. But people are looking forward to the trips that they have, and they know that there are travel disruptions, but they're confident that that will improve, and they're not concerned about maybe public health in the way that they were. So there is a groundswell of optimism amongst the travel audience, and that's something that we want to talk about in terms of defining that audience, who they are, who their motivations are, and we're going to get into that over the next couple of slides here this morning. So we'll start here in this section by backing it up a little. Looking back at the PA traveler, how did we define them historically? We started working with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on statewide tourism back in 2014. So what were visitation habits back then? Well, in looking at 18 to 34-year-old travelers, 91% had visited PA in the last 5 years, and that audience was more engaged in outdoor activities. And then looking at another segment, travelers who are 55 plus, they're more likely to have visited more than once a year, so they're making multiple trips, and they spent more than their counterparts. So that's what we were looking at back in 2015. But let's flash forward. What do we know about PA travelers today? The 2015 emerging audience, the people who we saw starting to travel more back then, that 18 to 34 crowd, they're now our core traveler. And we define that audience as high energy explorers. They are the most frequent leisure traveler. They are traveling 4+ times a year, and they are really the people that we are focusing on in a lot of ways. It is them and another audience I'll define as the traditional travelers. So those are really the audiences I want to talk about today, because they have, overlapping interests in a lot of ways, but also there are distinct ways in which you can market to them individually that will engage with them in a manner that will compel them to come visit this region. So, to begin, the high energy explorers. They're a younger segment. 71% are millennials or Gen Z. And I remember, when we're talking about millennials anymore, millennials on the upper end are 42 years old. I feel like I've been talking about millennials forever as this young audience. Well, I'm just at the cusp of Gen X and not far from being a millennial. So I think that's important to think about when we say millennials. We're talking about people in their late 30s and early 40s in some cases who have disposable income and they're ready to spend it. These people are commonly employed, they're parents, they're caretakers. Income, again, fairly moderate, 50,000 plus, slightly more diverse, slightly more urbanized, and we're going to get into all of these things, like what are their travel preferences. What are their interests and enthusiasms? What are the triggers that will motivate them to travel and come to this region? And what are their associations with PA? So that's all kind of highlighted here. We're going to get into that in great depth over the next couple of slides. But before we do that, we should also talk about traditional travelers. They're older. This is an audience that would be defined as, say, 42 years and older. Many are employed, but this segment, people are in their 60s and in late 50s is part of this segment too. So they're more likely to be retired. They have a higher household income, more likely to be married, and we'll get into all of their travel preferences, their interests, because again, yes, there's overlap with the higher energy explorers, but you'll see some key differences in terms of what they do when they like to travel. But I think the positive thing with all this is that Fayette County has something for each of these audiences. And in some cases, multiple things for each of these audiences. So, what do we know about PA travelers today? They're more likely to seek out high-spending lodging and activities when traveling. So, these are the different segments we've defined. HEE, standing for High Energy Explorers, is defined. Traditional travelers is the TT. The other two categories we're not as concerned with, which are budget travelers and homebodies. But in looking at our two key audiences, we see that high energy explorers, they like fine dining. They like a high-end hotel. Okay, can we think of fine dining in a high-end hotel in the region? I think we very much can with Nemacolin. Art museums and galleries. Art museums are here and in a world-class way in Fayette County. So, shopping. That's another key category. Looking at traditional travelers, shopping kind of being a commonality across the board, but fine dining, art museums and galleries. And yes, the percentages vary, but there are significant overlap. And all of these things can be found here in Fayette County, which I think is notable. Because, believe me, I do go around the state and I talk to a lot of different counties and destination marketing organizations. And sometimes, that conversation gets modified, to talk about the resources that a certain county has. Or in some cases, keeping out the discussion of maybe some resources that a county doesn't have. But here, there's so much that can draw people in the region, so it's a matter of how do we capitalize on it in so many ways. So, in looking at these four potential audience segments, again, we feel that Pennsylvania residents who fall into those two audience groups, the high energy explorers, the traditional travelers, they're the low-hanging fruit in a lot of ways. They're already here, and it's a matter of, say, getting people who live in Pittsburgh to drive down to Fayette County and stay overnight. So that's really, I think, what we're trying to do with one of the targets. And for out-of-state residents, that's a great opportunity for growth. We know that there's a lot of people from the DC, Baltimore area who will drive up this way. And that is an audience that is, ripe to be marketed to when you're talking about the Laurel Highlands in Fayette County. We know that, if you want to come from Ohio, Cleveland, or Columbus, that's not a bad drive at all on either 70 or the Turnpike. So those, I think, are the people we focused on. Contiguous states, within a drivable distance. And, I think there's so much here in the Laurel Highlands and in Fayette County that you can't really do it all with a day trip. I think there's so much to offer. And I think that is really what we want to impress on people when we're marketing to them in an out-of-state vein. So, looking at these segments, we focused on them for a reason. They travel the most, and they spend the most. So high energy explorers, again, they're slightly more urban than other segments. Just want to call it a few things I didn't quite discuss yet. The most frequent travelers, high spending segment, most likely to travel with friends. I think that's interesting. Whereas the traditional traveler audience, by comparison, they're more likely to be, say, maybe an empty nester, a couple who's traveling on their own. But this high energy explorer audience, they're about higher exertion activities, and they want to do it with a group of like-minded people. So I think that's something that we can seize on in our marketing communications that we're putting out there, appealing to groups. Something like, say, rafting down Ohio Pie. I mean, that is something that's going to be appealing to this high energy explorer audience. So we want to focus on that in a lot of ways to draw people to the area, to let them know that, you can have that, very active canoe experience by day, and you can have a world-class meal by night. You can do that in the Laurel Highlands, and you can get up the next day and you can go see, amazing creations from Frank Lloyd Wright. And there aren't a lot of places you can say that. So for me, and everything that I do as a marketer, it's all about capitalizing on the assets you have. And there's no question in my mind that the assets are here in a lot of ways. So, what do we know about seasonality? The high energy explorers, again, younger, more active, they're more likely to travel during the winter and the summer. So, obviously not a great winter for the ski resorts, but by all accounts, this was a good winter season here based on some of the conversations I've had with Anne and other leaders in the community. So that's, I think, interesting in terms of when we should prioritize messaging to these two audiences. And then the traditional travelers, older, a little more relaxed, more likely to travel in the spring and the fall. And again, that's not to say that a traditional traveler won't travel in the winter. But if you think about, the fact that, they want to travel with friends and other couples and have that experience, that lends itself to, a getaway at Seven Springs or Nemacolin in so many ways. And it's not that a traditional traveler wouldn't be doing that. It's just that we have to think about what we're saying to each audience in terms to get them to the area. Because it all plays into what are their motivations, what are their perceptions, and what is it that, in the advertising space, it's so cluttered. There are so many messages we're all being bombarded with all day, every day. But to focus on an escape, a getaway, something that will break through all the other messages and engage with someone in a way, because it gets down to a core need that they have. That's really the most successful marketing communications that anyone could have and put together. And that's what we want to think about and focus on in our marketing for the region. So traditional travelers, though, they are very valuable overnight visitors. They are, still very active, even if they're not as, thrill-seeking as, say, the high-energy explorers. They still have a high propensity to travel, and, not just now, but they're looking to travel to PA in the future as well. So we want to focus on both audiences again, but talk to them in different ways. Any questions or comments anyone has before I get into interests, perceptions, motivations? I know it's early, but if anyone has anything on their mind that's specific to their business, their field, their practice, yes, go ahead, sure. Can everybody hear him?
Why do we always market to people who are 25, 30 plus? As compared to, we have colleges and universities around here. Nobody's marketing to these 18 to 24-year-olds. I fall in that range, and I can assure you, there's not much to do, not very much marketing to people my age. And there are things like that available, right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. When you're talking about an 18 to 24-year-old audience, it's probably not Nemacolin, is it? No. But is it Ohio Pile? Is it the great, is it the Gap? I mean, I think it's those things in so many ways. So I think that's a lot of what we're trying to do is, and you would fall, I think, right into that high energy explorer audience, because it does, very much extend down to Gen Z. And I think when we're talking to audiences who are in their early 20s who want to travel, we have to put the things in the messaging communications that appeal to that audience, and that's in their price point as well. Yeah, I mean, that's so much. I mean, I remember when I was 22 and didn't have a ton of disposable income. I still loved to travel. It was a different scale because I was in a different life stage. Go ahead.
The younger crowd, it's the shorter weekend trips, 3-4 days, because we can't take the whole week off from work. And it's like you said with the friends. We do it with friends because we don't have that significant other's income to pad what we're, doing to stay or wherever we're going. And it's true. I mean, I just took a vacation in October, now not to Pennsylvania, but to Key West, and I went with a friend. And that's typically how the young crowd is doing it. And they're traveling in more than just 2. They're traveling in 4, 6, 10, 20.
He was not a plant, by the way. That was completely spontaneous. But I think part of the point there, too, is, there's more spontaneity that I think that's available when you're younger, too. I mean, for me to plan a vacation now, I gotta look months ahead. What's on the kids' sports calendar? Like, when can we have, coverage, if it's just my wife and I going away, or, but I think when you're young, we did a lot of this, Anne will recall, when we were doing advertising winter, tourism in Washington, D.C., we would do weather-triggered advertising. And really what that was, we'd have digital billboards, and we'd rotate a number of messages. But as I think everyone knows, D.C. is a different climate than the Laurel Highlands. So it could be snowing here, and it could be 15 degrees warmer in D.C. Yes? I'm sorry, who was it? Someone else? Oh, you? What? What's that? Oh, series in something? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. No worries about that. But what we would do, if it was snowing here and it was sunny there, we would run an ad, say on like a Wednesday or Thursday, and say like, hey, perfect snow conditions at Seven Springs this weekend. It's only 2 hours away. And when you're in your 20s and you don't have all the commitments that you have when you're older, that's a very viable thing for you to say, like, oh, let's get some buddies together, and let's hit the road this weekend. Let's do a road trip. And I think that is something in which you can talk to that audience in that way, and you can still have communications to a family audience, to an empty nest audience, that talk about the same assets that are here, but maybe talk about them in a different way altogether. And I think that's the beauty of what multi-channel marketing allows us to do these days. So it used to be, you just kind of throw advertising out there on the radio or in TV or in print and maybe see how it went or not based on how, hotel lodging and travel came back. But now we can be so precise with micro-targeting different audiences. We can run, on YouTube, and we can target it to different audiences. So you could have creative that speaks to the high-end dinner you could have at Lautrec and the spas experience that you can have at the Woodlands. And you can also have those ads that show 7 or 8 people in their 20s and they're hoofing it down Ohio Pile. They're doing a high-energy biking experience through the Gap Passage. So there's so much that this area has to offer. We want to talk now, I think. Let's see if there's any other comments. Oh, sure, please. Yeah, good. This is fun. I'm glad we're doing it this way.
Wait, microphone. But okay. Well, no, that's all right. You had also had said about Nemacolin Woodlands. We own a bed and breakfast up in the mountain, and I don't know if Nemacolin Woodlands is here or not. Okay. Well, we have a lot of guests that actually they are looking for a 5-star restaurant, and they had said to us, well, we'll go out. I said, you can't go unless you're a member. So I think that would be something that would be, and I don't know why you cannot go to one of their high-end restaurants or 5-star restaurants unless you're a member of Nemacolin Woodlands. I actually had a guest that actually argued with me, and I thought, I'm not getting into this. I know what their rules are. They went to the gate and he said we were turned away. Well, I knew they were going to be. But I mean, there are a lot of people that are out there and older couples. I mean, I would say, I can consider myself older too. But, in their 60s or 70s, that's just a couple that's going out for an anniversary or a special birthday or something, and they're looking for that 5-star resort, which they can't get it now. I mean, they can go to Stonehouse, and don't get me wrong, Stonehouse is beautiful too, but they're looking, Nemacolin Woodlands to to tourists that are coming to the area are looking at the Lafayette Chateau on the hillside. They want to go there. They want to see what's in that community. So, I mean, that's just something that, and I don't know why they closed it off to, you know, only guests that are staying there, but that's just something to look at.
Thanks. And these are questions that we will definitely address as we move throughout the morning. But thank you both so far.
All right. I will keep going then. Audience interest, getting back to it. What we know is that these audiences are enthusiastic about a broad range of activities. So this is just drilling down and putting more data behind some of the things that we already know. But food and beverage, very important to high energy explorers and to traditional travelers alike. I think what you see in that second, it's maybe a little hard to read, wellness and relaxation, much more important to the high energy explorer than, say, the traditional traveler. So I think that's something that's notable in terms of the difference between the two audiences. Outdoor recreation, also more important to high energy explorers. And I think you see history tracking well against both, arts and culture tracking well against both. And you know, family-friendly activities more important to the high energy explorer, because again, the traditional traveler is typically traveling without children. So, this is going to be a little hard to read, I'm sorry. It looks better on a screen than it does up here, but I'll point out some of the highlights. The gist is that PA tourism and the offerings that are here appeal to both audiences. Monuments and attractions. We have history. We have the outdoors. We have, you know, fine arts. We have fine dining. And not every county in Pennsylvania can say that, but Fayette County can. You have breweries, distilleries, wineries. You have ski resorts and spas, and there's just so much to do in terms of wellness, which is a big focus for Pennsylvania tourism writ large right now. People want that getaway. Everyone is burnt out post-pandemic. Technology, you know, and I'm an advocate for technology at every turn, but it is exhausting sometimes. It's exhausting for me to have that break, to have that getaway, to get out into nature, I think is so important. And you see that really pop amongst the high energy explorers in terms of what they want to do outdoors. And, you know, seasonal activities are so much of it as well. So these are all things that we can focus on in our outreach and communications to these audiences. And they actively seek local flavor and flair. Food and drink is the #1 interest across all segments. Scott, I'm going to kind of improvise a little bit here, but you talked about having a group of people in the area, and then they had a great home-cooked dinner just, you know, in Dunbar, where a lot of people in the town, in the area, pulled together to make that dinner. And I think people are looking for those kinds of experiences in so many ways. What's something that they could get in Fayette County that maybe they can't have in their busy life in Washington, D.C., or Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh? And I think dishes and flavors distinct to the region, and hitting that kind of just, very specific local aspect of it. Like you talked about your bed and breakfast. That's not something that someone in the city can have, you know, experientially really. So focusing on those elements and putting that forward will be, I think, a key to motivating travel to the area. All right, a little bit about perceptions and motivations now. Pennsylvania, and this shouldn't really surprise anyone, but I think it's worth seeing where Pennsylvania stands against the other states. It's typically perceived as a destination filled with history, natural beauty, and family-friendly cultural adventures. Because you really, have the history in so many ways that maybe only Virginia can also claim, that being Virginia and the red dot. So, a little hard to read, but Pennsylvania is the blue dots everywhere. So we have scenic beauty. We have family-friendly options. We have national and state parks. And the small towns. Sometimes people want to just get away and get out to a small town and get away from city life. I think we can offer that in so many ways. So Pennsylvania has so much to offer people. And I think that's really the true, secret in all of this. I mean, if I did tourism marketing for South Carolina, it'd be really easy. Go to the beach. If I did tourism advertising for Utah, it'd be really easy too. Look at these national parks and rock formations, and that's really something. But Pennsylvania, to me, is much more fun because we can offer such a multitude of offerings to people that people can really customize and create their own adventure in so many ways in Pennsylvania. And that's the fun part for me. That, if you're on the other side of the state, you can go to Valley Forge by day and go to a Phillies game at night. That if you're visiting Western PA, you can go to Fallingwater, and then you can have a real high-end meal somewhere. To have that diversity of experiences is just so essential in terms of what it is that we can say to people, because we don't have to say just one thing and hit it over and over again. We can say a multitude of things and talk to segments in specific ways. So, people typically choose travel destinations to connect with family or friends, experience a new place, and as I've talked about a good bit throughout, disconnect from their busy lives. You see the things that come out on top. Visit a specific place or specific thing I've wanted to do for a long time. There's a lot of pent-up energy since we've all been, kind of held back in some ways the last few years. So people are taking out their bucket list or things that they want to do, and they're checking them off. Connect with family and friends. Experience a new place. Slow down and disconnect. Refresh and pamper myself. These are common themes that emerge, and these are absolutely things that can be capitalized on. So, a little bit more about traditional travelers and high energy explorers, because we've talked about it, and I think, Scott, some of the things you said were very instructional here too. But what we see is that traditional travelers usually travel with their partner, whereas high energy explorers travel with a variety of people, especially friends. So, I think the gap that you kind of see there in terms of traveling with friends, 62% for the high energy audience, 40% for traditional travelers. It's not that traditional travelers aren't traveling with their friends, it's just that high energy explorers are more likely to do so. And again, so I think you have to think about that in terms of these aren't absolutes, these are skews, but absolutely things to take into consideration with who people travel with. Yes? I honestly don't know what portion they are. I think certainly that is a key portion because, in terms of a bus trip from, say, Cleveland or Washington, D.C., that's a very feasible trip. But I honestly don't know off the top of my head what portion it really is. Yeah. It did. It's coming back, though. Yeah, it is. I think it's more viable than it was the last couple of years, and I think you're right in that you're going to see a surge of people traveling in that way. So if there was a concern about getting on a bus, who am I sitting next to, I think a lot of that is mitigated now. So I think that very much is an area of opportunity going forward. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'd have to think it would be a much bigger summer for that kind of large group and bus travel. I think you'll see that coming from the folks who are the high energy explorers in a lot of ways. So, activity level plays a role in the way travelers envision and experience. So, high energy explorers, yes, they have a greater propensity to travel to cities, but let's not focus on that so much as focus on thrilling adventures. That's something that they're very keen on doing. You see the kind of green percentages very large in terms of adding excitement to someone's life and having thrilling experiences. And also getting outside of one's comfort zone. Younger audiences are much more willing to do that. And I think that is something that can be focused on in marketing efforts as well. Traditional travelers, more likely to seek the outdoors, again, travel with family and friends, and engage in maybe slower activities in some ways. So, where do they get travel inspiration? I think this is so important. And remember, I work in an advertising agency, and my background is in paid media. So I am a true believer in the ability of media to engage with people and impact their decision making. But I want you to look at what the number one item on the list is for where people get their travel inspiration. That is friends and family and word of mouth. There is no greater form of marketing than word of mouth. When someone who's had a positive experience and goes and shares that experience with other people. There's infinite ways for people to do that online, in which they couldn't in the past, but if someone feels differently, I'd love to hear it from them. But when a friend or someone you trust tells you that they had a great experience somewhere, it gets you thinking. You go home, you maybe talk to your spouse or significant other and say, boy, maybe that's something we should look into. You'll have the conversation. Because again, everyone is being bombarded with messages all day, every day. And how do you sort out what's genuine and what's real? You know when you hear from someone and they, raved enthusiastically about what they did on the weekend, that's maybe something, you should think about as well. And consider and tell other people. And that's so key to the whole thing. Word of mouth, which is funny in a lot of ways because we have all these tools. We have more technology than ever before. But yet, word of mouth, which is probably the oldest form of advertising and communications in so many ways, is still the most effective. And I'm saying that as someone, again, who's a believer in paid media, a believer in analytics, in having data-driven decisions. Word of mouth is number one, without question, without a doubt. So, this is really the close here. We're going to talk about some of the implications for Fayette County, which I think I've talked about throughout, but I'd like to really just sum them up, and then we'll leave time, I don't know how much time, we'll leave time for questions and more dialogue then, because you've been great. This is the last slide. Fayette County is very well poised to capitalize on the upcoming spring and summer travel season. You have all of the assets at your disposal. Outdoors, fine dining, recreational activities, high energy activities, arts. It's all here. Not many places in the state can say that, but you can. So I think, this should be a big season. It really should in so many ways. So, based on their travel habits, it would be wise to focus on traditional travelers in the spring. That's when they have a higher propensity to travel. Again, not that they aren't going to travel in the summer, but I can tell you with the advertising we're going to be doing for the state writ large, which runs, as you might imagine, in Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, DC, Maryland, the surrounding states, maybe up into Toronto. We're going to focus on traditional travelers this spring and have more of an even split this summer in our emphasis on traditional travelers and high-energy explorers. That's based on data. I think our marketing communications are going to be tailored in that way. I think it's something that anyone who's going to be doing marketing communications, over the next several months should take into account as well. High-energy explorers, as I've talked about throughout, they're more engaged with outdoor activities. So something that's very active, something that, is not necessarily leisurely, that's vigorous and outdoors. That's something that should be promoted to this audience. And I think we know what the audience is doing in terms of their media habits, which I didn't really get into today. But we have the data on where they spend time online. We know how to engage with them. And I think that is something to really focus on. You want to show younger people outdoors with their friends doing very active things. And that's the kind of thing that will engage that audience and get them thinking about Fayette County in terms of, top of mind travel planning. So the unique local experiences that are here should be emphasized in all messaging and communications. What's unique to Fayette County? You all know it, you live it every day. You probably grew up in this region, or it's become, the place that you live and love now. So what's local about Fayette County that we can go out there and communicate to people? I think that's always something to put first and foremost. And I said it, just prior to this, but I'll reinforce it again. The media landscape, trust me, it's exhausting to keep up on all the changes in technology and targeting and new media platforms. I mean, 20 years ago when I got started in advertising, actually 22 years ago, when I got started in advertising, the digital team was two guys over in the corner and no one knew what the heck they were doing. It was a mystery to people because, it was, we gotta run TV, we gotta run print. And then it was 2006 and I found myself in Austin, Texas of all places, and I was working on the Walmart account, and Walmart let the agency go after 19 years. And they said, all right, if you want to join the digital team, there are openings over here. Implication being, join the digital team or you're going to get laid off. And I went and joined the digital team. It was really out of no other reason other than I didn't want to lose my job. But digital has evolved immensely back then. Because I remember my first account that I worked on for AT&T, I had to run, they said, well, the client wants to run Facebook advertising. And I said, what is Facebook? It's something where you can only target people with an EDU address? And what is this? I was like, all right, I guess I should start to figure out what this is or not. And I could not have foreseen the changes and evolution that would happen in the digital space. I mean, I have a whole team of people who helps me stay on top of Snapchat and TikTok. And, I myself, I'll be candid, don't use those platforms in my personal life, but I need to know how they make sense for marketers and brand entities and for anyone who's out there communicating a message. And all that said, word of mouth, what people are saying about you, how people go and talk about the experience they had is the most critical piece of communications you can have. So making sure that when people are here, that they had a fantastic experience, that is invaluable, because they'll go back and tell others. There's a multiplier effect. They'll post about it on their social channels, and that is really the form of marketing that works better than any other. And yes, you can be assured that I'll be out there running campaigns for the state that are out there telling the story, but if I drive people to this region, I think it's so important that everyone here in this room can deliver on that promise to people, because that allows them to keep coming back, allows them to tell other people, and that I think is where the true success in marketing can really be realized. And it's incumbent in a lot of ways on everyone in this room here today. So that is what I have. So thank you so much for your time, and if there's time for more questions, we'll do more questions. If not, I'm available to chat further. But thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Who wants to be the person that says, this is what we talked about from that small group? Linda, Bill. All right, here we go. Here we go. Jen. Yay! Okay, wait. So what did you talk about? What are some of the...
Yeah, I think we said like Facebook and social media was some of the ways we're reaching the people. And also, and maybe this is just us, but we only stream media, so we don't have commercials at home, like we don't have regular TV, so if there's a way we can get into the streaming aspect of it to reach people there, because we don't have access. I mean, not that we don't have access, but we just don't have that. And I have young kids and elementary school, and everyone has an iPad, so he has access to YouTube, and that's how he's getting a lot of his information too. So if we can advertise there. And then, so we both own farms where we're reaching small kids, or if we get to the kids, then we can get to the parents. So that's another way, advertising to the younger crowd, and the fair is advertising to those Gen Xers. So there's two like very distinct groups, I think, that we were reaching in some of the same ways.
I can talk a little bit about streaming, because, well, it used to be, if you want to get your video out there, you'd have to pony up to run on TV. And yes, you can do some, kind of targeting of local cable systems. The reality is with streaming, I mean, anyone can set up a YouTube account and run, a very targeted video campaign with ease. And you can control your own budget, how much you're spending on it. Now, what we do for a lot of our clients, because of the kind of bulk negotiated rates we can get, is we work with these larger streaming entities. Some of them are Basis, MNI, Q1. But the idea, it doesn't matter who you're working with. It's all about who is your audience and what content are they viewing, and putting your message in that content. And I think it's simple. I mean, I've already talked about how to set up a paid YouTube campaign. It's really straightforward, and there's targeting criteria you can apply. And if you have different videos that talk to different segments, you can kind of narrowcast it too. So you're putting this video against this audience and another video against another audience. The whole idea is just testing and refining over time. Even with all the campaigns I've run, I often don't know until I put the campaigns into market what's going to work and what isn't from a creative standpoint. So the idea is that you can be very nimble with us streaming and something like YouTube, and it's a great asset. I mean, we use YouTube and pretty much almost every campaign because it is a way to reach a mass audience and to apply micro-targeting in some ways too. You can do it both ways there. So yeah, I'm happy to talk further offline about how to get that in place, but you don't need a lot of money to do that. You really, really don't. You can control how much you spend on a daily basis, and it can be very, very effective.
You what?
You have a question?
Your YouTube, when you're using YouTube to stream, she's like, what? I'm like, I have a question, because this was part of what we were talking about in my group. I have cable, but I don't watch cable. I watch Roku, I watch Netflix, I watch Peacock. So do you use the YouTube to stream that way too? Or is it just you're talking about streaming on just YouTube?
What we do is we run the campaigns on the Google Video Network. YouTube is the primary channel there, but it isn't just limited to, say, YouTube per se. And I think just so much of it is having, the right video lengths and the kind of content that matches the environment. And I'll extend that even to talking about like things like TikTok and Snapchat. We can't do TikTok right now. That's banned by the state, which I think is ridiculous. But we won't get into that. But if we're running a campaign on TikTok or Snapchat, the idea is to think about, do you have the right content for the audience? You have to think about the environment. If you take like an ad that's running on TV or you're on your website, you just throw it into TikTok, it's not going to work. People are not going to engage with it in the way that you want to, because you have to think about the environment. You need something that's maybe one standard deviation away from what you might do otherwise. Yes, you should be true to the brand, but in an environment like Snapchat or TikTok, you need to just take like one step further and kind of lean into some of the things that may seem, I don't know, to even me as a marketer, silly sometimes. But if that's what engages the audience, if that's the kind of content that's going to get people energized and excited, then that is very much what you should do.
So, quick show of hands here. Who's on TikTok? I ask this a lot in my meetings.
Nice.
It grows a little bit every time.
Yeah.
Anybody advertise on TikTok?
Oh, good.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Jolene.
Oh, good. That's very cool.
You taught for a lot of years.
Sure. Yeah.
And they didn't even pay to advertise that.
Right.
It was random people.
So this was word of mouth then in a lot of ways. This is an influencer who put it out there, and yeah. And as odd as that might all sound to some of you, it was effective in driving people and foot traffic. Because it was authentic in a way that any communications that we could package and tailor and put out there ever would be. Which is not to discount that, because it is so important. When you get people talking about your product or your offering in kind of a non-conventional way that maybe people don't expect, it comes through as genuine and people see through it. There's so much BS out there that marketers and people are slinging. So when something just cuts through and is real and authentic, it goes a long way. It really truly does.
Cool. Let's go on to another one of our groups. What about our high adventure people? Who wants to talk for our high adventure? Don't worry, I have lots and lots of t-shirts. So.
Well, I don't need a t-shirt.
Do you need a microphone?
But I might need a microphone. So
Just a couple things on different things. The social, the reels and short videos for the younger audience are what folks are using. Google Business is free, and they're moving to Google Maps. Does that make sense? Maybe we need to say something about that.
Sure.
YouTube Shorts are a success. YouTube is the #2 search engine. Google Maps is #1. Cross-advertising will have you in a higher Google placement.
Sure. Very
And
much so.
do combination of what you offer, not just rafting, but where you can eat with that also helps with Google.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you didn't have a wide range of different experiences, it might be a little harder. But you do, and you should lean into that. No question, no doubt.
Awesome. How about our history heritage? Sarah, where are you? There you are. Wait. Glad I wore my tennis shoes today.
We see this popping across all demographics, history and heritage.
Well, that actually relates to a lot of the conversation we were having. How do you diversify your messaging without alienating your prime target demographic? We think of history and heritage. I think many people assume that's an older visitor, it's an older tourist. So how do you bring younger folks into it in ways that are still accessible to the people who have been good to you for years and years?
Sure. I mean, I think in some cases there is overlap of messaging, but I think what we find, even on a platform such as YouTube, we can set it up so we're just talking to audiences 55 and older, and are just running content and messaging that only they will see. And on the same channel, and this could be Hulu, this could be Roku, this could be any one of these channels. I'll just keep using YouTube because I think it's the most immediate, most accessible platform. You can also craft a campaign to 18 to 34-year-olds that just focuses on the things that they're interested in. One audience may not see what the other audience is seeing from an advertising and marketing standpoint. So I think we have the ability to narrowcast in ways that we didn't before. And I mean, I'm just curious to hear you talk a little bit more about what might alienate somebody from coming, because I think if we show a high energy, canoe or rafting experience, does that really alienate another audience? That either may be for them or not for them. I'm just curious. I'm just curious to hear the
Talking
people who are here.
specifically about history and heritage, are we going to be, if you bring a TikToker to Nemacolin Castle, will someone who's 70 years old be excited that that is happening, or is that going to baffle them? Are they going to feel?
They may not ever see it if they're 70. I mean, oh sure, here.
Well, I would say also a problem we're having at the State Theater is not that we're alienating them, it's that we have to spend so much money in so many varied kinds of marketing and we're not necessarily seeing like the return on investment from each of those things, and yet if I don't put an ad in the newspaper, then I have a bunch of people calling the theater to find out if the show's canceled. So I still kind of have to do that, yet I have to try to reach new people, younger people or different audiences on all these different social media platforms. And it's just a matter of, I'm a nonprofit, I don't have enough money all the time, and I also just, we're a small office. It's only a couple of people. And so it's challenging to do everything. And that's where I struggle. It's just, I have to keep my older patrons informed, and I have to reach new people to get them to come so that we can perpetuate the theater into the future. But it's just a very challenging time right now, I feel, just because we have to market in so many different ways.
It's tough because, sure, there aren't finite resources. And to have a layered media mix where you're talking to multiple people in different ways, using video is the key in a lot of ways.
So my question is, we talk a lot about advertising to 18 to 34 or what have you. I can tell you I have a son who is 12 and he has hounded me for months that he wants to go swim with pigs because he saw it on a TikTok video. I don't even know where it's at, someplace south. But why are we, is there any data on if these high energy people are family oriented, they're looking for things like that, are we advertising to children?
Are we advertising to children? I mean, in some ways, I think we are, because the pull of a child who's saying, come on, I want to do this, can be, sometimes monumental. I mean, I'll use my own experience. I've held out against Disneyland and Disney World for so long, but I finally caved. We're going to Disneyland in May, so so yes, I think there can be communications that are tailored to that younger audience in a way that kind of gets them excited, because we do see in the research that it's more of a consensus that's achieved within a family than it used to be. I think kids have access to content like seeing swimming pigs in a way that they wouldn't have in the past. So we're going to Disneyland, and my daughter's very actively involved in the planning in terms of what she wants to do. Oh, there's the Avengers Land, and I want to go see this other thing that's focused on the Disney princesses. And when I was young and went to Disneyland, I didn't really think about it. I got dragged there by my parents, and whatever it was that they wanted to do, or maybe I had a stray thought or two that came into it. But I think now, my daughter's 10 and she has an iPad, and yes, we monitor the content she's watching, but she has input into things that I wouldn't have when I was 10. My parents were planning trips, so kind of bringing that into account, I think is a lot of fun in ways. Because when we got to California, I'm going to work in some things that I want to do, microbreweries and such. But for my daughter, she has a list of things that she wants to do, and we'll make sure that happens. And I really, and maybe you had different experiences, but for me growing up, it just really wasn't that interactive. And I think that's the difference with technology and all the content that's available to kids. Because I certainly, when I was 10, I didn't have videos of pigs swimming and say, oh, I might have thought, shoot, that's something I want to do, but that just wasn't available to me when I was young, and it is now. So very interesting in a lot of ways. Thinking about multi-generational travel, because that's something that we've seen growing.
Better turn out on. My daughter will take me to the store, and she knows exactly the makeup brands that she wants, down to everything, to the color, everything, because of influencers. It's amazing how she will walk in and scale, and she'll be like, there's the one thing. I never thought of doing that.
In my house, it's the Squishmallows. Does anyone else have the Squishmallows that they deal with? My daughter's room is overrun with Squishmallows. It's wild.
I just have a question here for you,
Sure.
because I leaned over to my neighbor here and I said, so YouTube knows my age and knows about me? And she said, yeah, they know all that.
Yeah.
So if my grandson grabs my phone and starts playing with it, then they know that a young person is playing with it?
Yes. It's not free. I always say, people sometimes often, it evades them that something like YouTube isn't free. You may not be paying a actual denominational amount, but you're paying for it in terms of your data. Yeah. Facebook isn't out there for the goodness of Mark Zuckerberg's heart in terms of why that's a service that's being provided to people. It's about data, and I think that's why TikTok is something that the state doesn't allow us to run for, because we not only work with Pennsylvania Tourism, we do all the advertising and media placement for the state of Pennsylvania, and it's a data privacy concern. And that's why we're not running TikTok now for the state. We do it for other clients, though. But yeah, yes.
Well, I have more of a comment. So
Sure.
I'm the owner to his loca, and I own a food cart, and my whole business is targeting children, doing TikTok candies and all the different different corns and all that. Our kids are where it's at. I was sad that you said TikTok is banned from here, because that's
Well, I mean, I should say this. It's for the camp, and we have a contract with the Commonwealth, and it's for the campaigns we're running statewide. I mean, if we were to work individually with someone in this room or with Fayette County, believe me, we would. If we were talking to a young audience and we had the right content, we would be on TikTok. And for our higher education clients that we're working with across the state, we are using TikTok. So anytime that we can, we are. And we're hopeful that in the coming months that that kind of ban I'm sorry to keep talking about this, but it is of interest. Well, yeah, but it is a very viable platform that everyone in this room should think about how it might be useful for their business or property that they own.
So there's going to be a little bump in TikTok usage after this in Western Pennsylvania, and they're going to try to figure out why. We are running really close on time, and I want to go move to Tracy. That was your 30-second warning. So this conversation isn't over. We will continue as we go through the day, and we'll have ample time during lunch to continue this conversation because I think it's really important. But at this point, I want to say thank you very much for hanging.
This part was fun. I didn't know we were going to do this.
I know,
this
it's fun, isn't it?
I enjoy this, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Another round of applause for everyone's help. While Kathy switches gears up here on the computer, I want to introduce a good friend of mine, someone who I met relatively recently. Hasn't been that long, has it, Tracy? We're going on a year? All right. So we work with all kinds of businesses at the Chamber, and we focus on a lot of different issues, but one of them we focus on an awful lot is workforce, because as we all know, this is an interesting time to try to bring in employees. So about a month or so ago, Tracy and I had a conversation, and she literally said to me, hey, I'm going to come to the Tourism Alliance because I think it's important that these folks take a look at what they're facing, interesting terminology, moving into the tourism season. And I said, well, that sounds fascinating, so yay, and here they are. So I will turn it over to Tracy Grace from Express Employment Professionals. And Matthew, here, you get one too.
All right, well, thank you. So some of the faces in the crowd I do recognize and I do know. So I am Tracy Grace. I am the Business Development Manager for Express Employment Professionals. For our Westmoreland Fayette office, we have two, one in Irwin, one in Lemont Furnace, and then we also have acquired our Pittsburgh East office. Within Western PA, we have 7 sister offices that we look to for support in helping the businesses in the area and the job seekers make a workforce of love connection. So that's our goal there. But one of the things that we are very familiar with and comfortable with is hospitality, tourism, that industry as a whole from a workplace perspective. Within the Western PA market, in some of our office is 65% of the business partners that they have are in that category. I myself worked in the Pittsburgh North office prior to joining Westmoreland, which was 4 miles from home. But in our Pittsburgh East North office, we had just about every hotel in the downtown area, every corporate dining, every country club, golf club, you name it, we were in it. So this is a comfort zone for myself in talking to you about what the workforce landscape looks like here in Fayette County. Joining me today is Matthew. He is a newer member to our team, but Matthew comes with an extensive amount of experience as well.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I spent over 16... So I spent over 16 years in hospitality. I was born here, however, I spent the last 10 years out in Florida, which is a huge tourist attraction. I was the assistant guest service manager for a rental resort. It was called Encore, where we had over 400 plus houses that we rented out, and I was the assistant manager for guest services. I'm here hoping that, right now I'm one of the employment specialists over at Express. I'm here hoping that we can get some more hospitality type workforce in the local areas.
So the true cost of talent is what we're going to kind of look at. We've got some data that we pulled. We're going to talk about the unemployment rate versus the open jobs. We're going to look at employee turnover. We're going to talk about some of those wage comparisons. We know that that is a pain point here, not only in Fayette County, but just in Western Pennsylvania as a whole. And we're going to talk about a little bit about some ideas and thoughts on how we can attract and retain some of that top talent that you're looking for in the positions that you have open. Does anybody in the room not have an open position? Is anyone in the room not currently hiring? Because I would be shocked by that. Oops. Okay. So when we took a look at the local unemployment rate, what we found was nationally, the state was reporting in January of 2023 that we were at a 3.4%. If you look at it from the state and then you look at it from Fayette County, we're at about a 5.6% going into January. And what we were finding was the jobs that people were looking for that were sitting on the unemployment, in looking at our Fayette County profile, there are about 55,000 people currently in the labor force. 52,000 are employed, and about 3,100 at this point in time were unemployed. They were unemployed in the areas of construction trades, education, healthcare, trade, transportation, utilities, professional and business services, and believe it or not, only 6% were in leisure and hospitality. So where did all those leisure and hospitality folks end up if there's only 6% that are sitting on the market saying that they don't have a job? What we found was after the pandemic, those folks started shifting because that your industry took such a hard hit where you couldn't be open, or you could be open but you were at a limited capacity. You were at a 20% service rate. Maybe you were a restaurant and you could only do curbside services. Well, those folks that normally worked in those industries had to find somewhere else to go. So they moved into other job opportunities. So now you've got this disconnect between available people that are out there and the folks that are still remaining in that industry.
One of the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be the online job postings for all of our hiring managers here. Who has an ad on Indeed, LinkedIn, some sort of online marketing tool to advertise their business? Okay, so pretty much everyone. So online job postings from January 2022 to this year have went up by 521. So that just means that more candidates are looking for different avenues to try to find more work. Talented workers are ready to get back on the field. I can say that on a day-to-day basis that I get calls all the time from people that are looking for work that we just don't have the opening, we don't see those openings that are available. A lot of times that we're looking for people, this is kind of going into my next topic here, compensation is a key factor for attracting people. The second question that a lot of people ask me on the phone is, how much are companies paying? What's the price point that they're looking for? I'm only going to work for a certain amount of money, nothing less. I don't know where the other slide is.
Okay, so sorry about that. So within those online job postings, what we're finding is people are calling in, they're responding, and they're saying to us, oh, I'm really interested in this job. Where's it located? How much is it paying? So right now we have about 2,000 jobs in January that were posted on Indeed for Fayette County. So you have your job out there amongst 2,000 others. So when we start looking at some of the things that we're hearing back from the business clients that are supported out there, Express as a whole commissioned a survey from the Harris poll. And what they were looking at, the reasons that, for the open jobs are pretty self-explanatory.
People don't have the experience that companies are looking for. They may not have the hard skills. You're just not finding the applicants in general. We don't know what happened to them. They went poof into the night. They disappeared into thin air. And then some of those soft skills. I can attest to this. I've got a combined total between my husband and I. We have 6 children, and the younger set of that children is all this. And if they got to look up and talk to somebody, forget it. So they're lacking that general people skill, that customer service skill. Everything that they do is tied to a screen and their thumb. So that's some of the things that we're finding. The compensation in the job market, obviously, available talent pool, not matching what a company needs. Sure, there's workers out there, but are they the workers that you need for the positions that you have open? So that's another disconnect that we're finding. And then just kind of, assisting the candidates in the hiring process. The reason that people, might not know that you have a job out there is you're advertising on a medium or a place that they don't go to. So, for example, somebody that is a welder, we'll use them as an example. Traditional welder type person is not necessarily sitting on Indeed looking for a job. They might be hearing about it through word of mouth, through a buddy, as they're tinkering, working on their vehicle in the driveway. So thinking about where are you advertising for your jobs and are you hitting the right market of people? So there was something that had come up in our little discussion group about, the age brackets, like, Misty had said, her 12-year-old seeing an ad. Where are those 18 to 24-year-olds looking for their jobs? Where do we need to hit them in that market? So something to think about. So then we took a look at the cost of employee turnover, and this number to me was staggering. The average cost of a company for employee turnover is $62,542. When you take into the fact of the wages, and you take into the fact the lost productivity, and you take into the fact of the advertising that goes into finding that person and replacing that person, the amount of time that is spent to train that person, and what does the wage of the person who's training that person make? So when you start tallying up all of those things, $62,000 is your average yearly rate for turnover. And the reasons for turnover are pretty, common. We hear it all the time. It could be that they left for better pay and benefits that are being offered somewhere else. It could just be the competitive job market because there are so many jobs out there that the supply of the people are not there. You could have turnover for workplace demands. And workplace demands could be something as simple as, how many of you in here, your business is open evenings, your business is open weekends, your business is open holidays, and now you're coming back to your workforce saying, hey, we gotta work those evenings, those weekends, and those holidays. Those workplace demands with COVID really changed people's perspective. Family time and time away from the workplace became more important and more valuable. So those demands where you're saying, oh, by the way, we're open on Christmas Day and it's mandatory that you have to work, those are the reasons that people are finding for turnover. And then just the aging of our workforce. Our workforce is getting older and older and older, and we were finding that the age bracket that is coming up into the workforce is entering that workforce at later stages in life. I was a kid, I was told by my parents that I had to get a job in order to have a car, have a license, have insurance. I want a cell phone, who's paying for it? Wasn't my mom, it was, oh, okay, here you go. You want these things, you had to work for it to earn it. That age bracket now coming into that 16 and 18 and the early 20s, that group, they're still not being pushed in that direction like many of us were. They're getting their start a little bit later. So with that retiring workforce, you don't have that backup surge coming with it.
I'm okay with the feedback there. So obviously, as you can tell, I'm not a very high public speaker like Tracy here, but I'm going to do my best. So, this is kind of like a little wage comparison that we did. We looked to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics for wage comparison for 3 common occupational goals. And basically what we're seeing is Pennsylvania across the nation is slowly going up when it comes to pay increases. For instance, like hotels, resorts, things of that nature. Nationally, it's about 12. It's slowly going back up, or I'm sorry, it was 12 in 2019. It is going back up now. We're about 12.35 in PA. For maids and housekeeping, you're kind of seeing a same increase nationally in 2019. It's around $13. Now it is $14 nationally. And pretty much the same type of thing is going on with the food and service retail workers like Bob Evans or restaurants in general. You see it going from $12.74 and now it's moving up nationally to $13.83. But PA, it actually went down there. And that's probably, I know we're blaming a lot on the pandemic, but realistically for us, it is because of that. We lost a ton of business. We're just now slowly opening back up, but we don't have people that are wanting to get back to work.
I think a lot of that too has to do again with the supply of people that are in those food service related opportunities. From an educational standpoint, we lost some of our culinary schools. So there are smaller culinary programs. Culinary programs are not pushed as much in some of our school settings. We lost the school in the heart of Pittsburgh. That produced an awful lot of people, came out of there. People that are in those food service related type jobs also moved on to other opportunities. So when that supply kind of went down, the wages kind of wonked a little. So we're hoping that some of those changes, as you can start to steer and compete a little, will bring those wages back up. Exactly. And unfortunately, we understand that this is a pain point. And I'm gonna pop here, we did another little bit of a comparison for you, and hold the thought to that, because I'm gonna show you where that mindset of our workforce is going. Okay, so give me 2 seconds on that.
Yep, nope, I already did it. Nope, I already switched it. So this was something that we did. We also did a kind of a test on. We did a study, and these are local areas. These are the average prices of local areas of costing. So what I found interesting is for this same type of position, for a front desk clerk out in Uniontown, it's different in Greensburg. Greensburg and Uniontown are not that far away. So it's almost $2 different for the same type of job, just in a different area. For one of the big ones that I saw was hotel housekeeper. Housekeeping is a physically demanding job. I had to do it for 3 days and my back was swollen and sore afterwards. But Uniontown, it's $10. In Washington, it's $13.12. I would drive out to Washington for a $3 difference. Would any of you guys? I know I would. For a backbreaking manual job like that? Absolutely. And same thing for food service workers. Uniontown is $8. Out in Greensburg, it's $14. I would gladly drive to Greensburg for that $14 an hour.
So the next thing that we did was we kind of looked at some of those common positions that we have open. And when you start looking at it from a standpoint of just a similar job title, and this is going to probably answer your question a little bit. So when you look at it from a front desk clerk or a hotel housekeeper or a food service worker, the same skill sets, and that's something to keep in mind, transferable skill sets, we're finding in the area, so this is still our market of Uniontown in the area, someone working at front desk could do a customer service position. You can make $11 in a front desk position where you can make 16 in customer service. Our retail associates, on average, $14. So to put corn on the shelf at our neighbor Walmart, you're making 14. Whereas any of those skill sets on the left-hand side, you're making $2 to $3 less than that. General labor has really excelled and taken off in Fayette County. We can attest to that. Some of our largest business partners here in Fayette County that we support are in the general labor category. I can tell you that to process some lumber and do that physical backbreaking work down at Northwest Hardwoods, you're looking at $16 an hour. And that's a general labor, minimal skill set, entry-level type of position. That's what they're paying, and that's where the workforce is going. They're going to those higher paying opportunities where they're, getting in their foot in the door there for those $2 and $3 more an hour. Okay? Go ahead, questions? Go ahead. Some of the positions do offer health insurance. Some of them do not. Some of them offer a portion paid into that health insurance. It might be health insurance for that employee, but it might not be for the family. A lot of these are, looking at it from an entry-level standpoint. So they're really giving them their opportunity to get their foot in the door, and then what they're doing from there is that opportunity to, grow within that group. Go ahead. I got questions everywhere. Go ahead, Steve.
Hello.
Hi.
I got a real quick question. So, to make more money in position jumping happens, do you see a lack of somebody looking at the long-term effect of the job of staying there? It might be a smaller salary, but growing within the company and becoming a general manager or running the place instead of just jumping all the time. It's not always the best way. You might make $16, but you might make that for the rest of your 30 years. And I see a lot of businesses talking about the motivation and the passion is not allowing them to grow.
Right.
They're just jumping.
What we're finding is it's kind of a combination of both depending on the age bracket of the worker. So instant gratification is that 18 to 20 to 25, that group there, because they have instant access to everything. So right now they're instantly seeing, oh, I'm gonna make 16, so I'm gonna jump right there. They're not in the mindset yet to think about the long-term future. Where is this job gonna get me in 5 years? They're not thinking further down the road than, a handful of days. Go ahead.
And, there were 20-something people in the room. I would say half of the people when we did the around the table at the end, just state of your business, about half of the people had no one, they were hiring, and they seemed desperate to hire. And I think your unemployment numbers, I wonder, do they include the people who have just left the workforce?
It was from
January.
January.
Does it include the people does it count only people who are currently employed and currently in the unemployment system? Does it count all those people who maybe left employment period and are not at all seeking work? Because, the restaurants are having such a hard time finding people. All of our restaurants' hours have gone down and changed, and just so many businesses seem to be so affected by a lack of people to actually hire. I don't know that it's so much, yes, we maybe pay less, but at this point we're struggling, we're making less money, we need to have, more, you're gonna close down your nonprofits if we have to start paying them $16 an hour, it's just not gonna be feasible.
So I can answer a part of that question, not to take over
No,
everything.
right.
But that profile that she showed earlier, the unemployment rate, those are the people that are currently on unemployment receiving a check. It's not those people that have exhausted their unemployment is not included in that. Am I correct, girls? It is the one, it is there, right? They don't, that is on PA Work Stats. If you're ever bored and you want some more boredom, PA Work Stats is a great tool to use to find out all this information. But that she had on was from the stats from January. And it's actually surprising that it's up to date because it never was, but they have gotten so much better in keeping that up to date. Sorry, Tracy, I didn't mean to take over your presentation.
You're fine. So the Fayette County profile, I put some copies over here on the registration table. There's a lot of, stats and figures and math, lots of math on here. But yeah, it is staggering. And to answer your question, this industry as a whole is where the people are vacating from, and they're heading to other things. They're finding opportunities because they had to. So in that 3-year time frame of when we took the hardest hit, they found other opportunities to make money, or they found a way to stay home and not have to make the money. So this was a topic of conversation that had come up, prior to all of this starting today. There's a lot of folks that are, found ways to just stay home.
Go ahead.
Questions?
Okay, so looking at the last chart you had up, would it be fair to say that for the majority of that, the left-hand side would be locally owned businesses and the right-hand side would be the corporations?
In some respects, yes, but at the same time, no. No, it's businesses are finding ways to attract the talent and get the talent in there to stay. And if they had to, shave here and cut there to move money into the payroll bucket, that's what they're trying to do to remain open and competitive and keep their doors going.
Somebody had a comment back here, and it's striking to me. It's kind of ringing in my head because I have kids in this lovely age range here. They're looking at jobs. So Jolene said they had employees that they were hiring. They were younger people who wouldn't take the incentive of insurance, health insurance. They had to convince them on health insurance. Something to think about in that, like my middle son or my oldest, they're on our health insurance till they're 26, so that means nothing to them in the big picture. It's all about that piece.
I worked in the hotel industry for 20 years doing front desk and night auditing, and I'll tell you the reason why I got out of it is because I do the night audit at the end of the night. I see the numbers that are coming in, and I don't understand why employees aren't getting paid the $15 an hour or getting paid. It doesn't matter, corporate or not. It's an industry, if you guys aren't going to pay, you're not going to get people in there who even want to think about becoming a manager because you're already lowballing them at $11 an hour.
Interesting perspective. Oh, Lindsay, wait.
I'm just curious, in Fayette County, it seems like a lot of us are hiring for seasonal employees because that's when our business is booming. And so I'm curious what everybody has had as suggestions or success with how do you, keep having to refill that every year? We're trying to figure out ways like how can we make that more of a year-round employment position so that we don't have to keep filling them every year. And I know I'm not alone, in hiring seasonally, so I'm curious what everyone else is coming up with as a solution, because for us, our workforce swells from 6 people to, 15 to 20 in the summer, but that means that's all those people I have to recruit, train, and bring back every year. On the flip side, we're pretty much have nothing for them to do in the off season. So what's everyone doing about that? And do you have any numbers on how many jobs are created seasonally in Fayette County?
back on? Okay. I don't have just the seasonal numbers. That will start to kind of take shape here in probably another month or two as you come out of your non-season. Then you'll start to see those spikes in the job postings. You'll start to see that spike in people that are, coming out of hibernation, coming out of the off season that do enjoy working in that particular realm. We see it a lot, in the construction trades where, December, January, February, everybody kind of goes dormant. They, stay at home as far as workforce goes, but then they are going back to those places that they have worked. So a lot of it has to do with the type of culture that you have in retaining your people and the type of offerings that you have to retain your people. So when you're looking at that from a seasonal worker standpoint, like what are you offering them? Like, do you have such a great place to work that they can't wait to get back in there because now the season's back up and open? So it has a lot to do with culture in getting those people back. And the things that you can offer that are maybe things that, they're the non-traditional weird things that you don't think about. I can tell you that I had an associate that looked at 2 job opportunities, and you want to know why they chose company A over company B, even though they were exact same on paper, much like this? Because they had his favorite cereal in the lunchroom. I swear to God, true story. It had to do with his favorite cereal being in the lunchroom. The position paid exactly the same, 2 good companies, XYZ, on paper, they were like twins of one another, but he chose that company because of the cereal in the lunchroom. So there are ways that you can attract and keep those people wanting to come back, okay?
I have a question over here, Tracy.
More or less just kind of like a tip for you. I know people who love to do that seasonal work and they miss out on it a lot of times because of a lot of places will not offer seasonal work. Go for your college students, the ones that come back in the winter. They're here in the summer because they're not in classes. They need seasonal work because they can't get a full-time job. I have multiple people who have come up to me in the last 2-3 years, like, where are you working? What are you doing? Like, how do you have a job? I'm like, I'm part-time, so like I'm actually really just casual, so I work when I want. But they can't, they say, I've searched, I've tried, I've applied 20 different places, 30 different places. I had an 18-year-old brother, freshly graduated out of high school, actually was still in high school, applying multiple places. Couldn't even get a job anywhere because these places are not willing to work with the schedules of these people. But those seasonal workers, it's the college students, like I'm telling you, and with Penn State and Cal U, you have somewhere that you can already go to and look for people in the area. And there's people that come back from outside the area and they're looking for work, but they can't find anything seasonal, so they don't work.
And to touch upon what you just said there too, in a prior life I used to oversee college bookstores. I spent 27 years on college campuses. And I have, my daughter's in college. Internships, great opportunity. They have to stay on campus because they have one class that they have to take, so they can't come home for the summer. So again, touching upon that, can you capitalize on that market of those folks that are still in the area or the ones that, are coming back home? Look at that from that perspective. So when we looked at what will retain talent in the in this area, a lot of it has to do with career advancement. So they don't want to get, necessarily, stuck doing that entry-level position the whole time. They want to get, know that there's a chance that they can move up into something else. Leadership, 41% had to do with the leadership that was in the group. That was a reason why talent came back, was because of the people that they worked for. And that tied in directly with that work environment and that culture. So I can tell you that, Matthew and I were very blessed to work for a wonderful business owner. She's a small business owner, but it's just the atmosphere and the team that she has surrounded us all with. Like, we enjoy going to work every day. You want to make it so that your employees enjoy coming to work every day. And then also, just kind of a little bit of that challenging work. They don't want to be bored sitting on their job. They don't want to, necessarily be, killing themselves, putting themselves in the hospital at the same time, but they don't want to be bored sitting there doing what they're doing. And then looking at it from compensation and benefits. What kind of things can you offer? Like, we understand that pay, a lot of your hands are tied, you're strapped, you're, kind of working with a budget that's, really, really small, and we understand that, but are there other things, the non-traditional things that you can offer to attract associates? And then just rewards and recognition.
You had briefly mentioned internships, but what are you seeing in like a difference when they're outlining an internship versus like a seasonal worker? Like what do you see people looking for, and what are you see companies asking for in their workers?
What we're seeing, not so much from the seasonal worker. The seasonal workforce is good for a certain age bracket, but a seasonal workforce is not necessarily attractive as much to an older age bracket. And that case being is because they want to know that they have the consistency of that paycheck 52 weeks a year. Especially coming off the heels of pandemic, there's a lot of concern that maybe they've already exhausted their unemployment benefits. So what do they do, December, January, February, when their workplace isn't open? Are they going to be able to maintain their bills and still be able to, function? So sometimes seasonal work is great, and then sometimes not so much. When it comes to the internships, partnering in with the schools, some of the schools in the area do offer hospitality type degrees. Getting those types of folks that want to come in for an internship. When a student is looking for that, they have so many markers that they have to meet from a class criteria standpoint, working with that school to see if you can get that, be that place where they can start checking off those boxes. Those are just great opportunities. I know that there are a number of what we refer to as that evaluation to hire. Sometimes that's attractive to somebody because then they can get into that position and see, do they like it? Is this a good fit for them? Are you, the company, a good fit? And then you get to evaluate that person as well. But at the same time, they want to know that they have that job. So even an evaluation hire is becoming less attractive, because they want to know that they have that job. So it's trying to figure out that fine dance. So we're hoping that we can, come up with some ideas today and, get some thoughts brewing as to how we might work that. Go ahead.
Here comes, we're running for him.
Hi everybody. This is something I'm actually excited to contribute because I work for the Great Allegheny Passage. We've got a large trail, 150 miles. If you haven't been on it, come on, check it out. Right after COVID happened, about 100 lodging properties between Pittsburgh and DC, plus a couple of restaurants, called me since I produced Trail Guide, saying, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But I can tell you cheerfully, 70% of them are back, they're full, not maybe with the restaurants and the hours, there's still some challenges there. But somebody said something, I've heard it now for 2 straight years, when hiring, if you're competing on dollars, you will lose. Because there's too many influences. They would say, Doug, we're seeing too many influences. People are just saying $15 an hour, $18 an hour. They don't consider anything else. But that's not the employee they wanted. They wanted the employee that's looking for, like you just mentioned, the leadership, the atmosphere, that cohesion, something they could put on a resume. So I've heard this for a couple of business owners now, they've said it. Think about what your business is when it's optimal. Think about what that environment is. And in your interview, give yourself the best chance possible. Have that attitude and portray that. When it comes to the money, cover the money, answer it confidently. But give yourself a fighting chance and have the attitude as if you're optimal. Forget the pandemic and get back to where you used to be and get the people you want, but give them a chance and give yourself a chance. But don't compete on numbers, because that often will attract the wrong person. The person that's sitting there, maybe adding up a hotel's rooms, saying, oh, they're charging this much for a room and they got this many people, I should make $50 an hour. No, that's not the type of people you might want working for an organization. Find the people that want to be part of what your mission is, the fun of a farm or a hayride, stuff like that, and give yourself a chance. Whoever's doing your interviews, if they're a stressful person, maybe have somebody else do your interviews. That's something else. A couple of B&B owners said that. They're like, I was too stressed. I didn't realize how frustrating I was. But when they change their mindset, the business will follow and they change the business.
So one of the things that you guys can do is, take a look and review those wages and look at your budgets. And okay, so fine, you have a front desk position and it's $11 and that's where you're at, and you know that you're competing with people that are up in the 16 market. Do you necessarily have to jump to 16? No. Could you maybe bridge the gap a little? Maybe get another dollar out of it. But look at what other things that you can offer. So is it, maybe you offer them free services. Okay, so you're a whitewater rafting company and you want to offer them that they can do whitewater rafting at any time. They get a discount for their family members to stay in your hotel or your bed and breakfast. Look at other things. Restaurant industry. Give them a free meal. What's it going to cost you? Okay, so fine, at the end of their shift, they're having a burger and some fries, but you've given them a meal. Or you've helped them to even a pair of non-slip kitchen shoes. They're god-awful and ugly and nobody wants to wear them, but they're what, $30 at, you can get a pair at Walmart. All right, fine, here's reimbursement for your non-slip shoe. It's those little odd things that maybe you can do where if you can't put it into the wage bucket, maybe you can put it into your benefit bucket. So if you are a small business and you can't offer health care, what else can you do? Okay, here's an extra mental health day. Or you have flexibility for, someone who maybe has, needs to work around a bus schedule. I got to get my kids on the bus, I got to get my kids off the bus. What can I do? How can we work around that? So look at some of those non-traditional benefit type things. And then reduce some of those barriers to hiring. Okay, so some of the things that we're finding too, yes, there are people out there looking for job opportunity. However, they are coming with a background. They are coming unable to maybe pass a drug screen, and most commonly for THC. Do you have those requirements in your business? Do you have to have those requirements in your business? Or can you offer them the opportunity to maybe move forward? Look at that background. Okay, fine, you've done some things. Let's make you into a good worker. Can you overlook some of those things? Because that's a barrier. The barrier of transportation. How do we get these people to work? We're finding that not everybody has access to a vehicle. Maybe that's one of the ways that they're able to afford to, only have, instead of 2 people in the household working, now they only have 1 because they only have 1 car. They're sharing vehicles. Kids today aren't being easily access to the family vehicle. So that's another area that we have to try and figure out and look into. Some of the other barriers we talked about was the child care. Making sure that we can work around those schedules of those working parents. Their kids might not be eligible for after-school care. They might not be able to afford after-school care. So we have to look to see where can we juggle and adjust. And then, like I said, just offering some types of rewarding benefits, and it can be those non-traditional things. Somebody's going to come work for you if you put Captain Crunch in your lunchroom. That sold him on that deal. He wanted the Captain Crunch. So, try to think of those things and look into that. Matthew, are you up next steps? Matthew and I are sharing some of this responsibility. He's doing a great job, isn't he?
Okay, so this one is kind of touching up on some of the things that we shared today. Some things like maintaining status quo, agreeing that you won't get different types of candidates that you want, or the decision, or your decisions could result in a higher turnover. So some of the things that we could see is like, for instance, a long time to fill a position. For front desk, I know it takes excessively long to find the right candidate. Because, I know that we had, whenever we were in Orlando, whenever it had a ton of candidates, it took us almost 3 months to find a front desk candidate because we had our expectations so high on exactly what we were looking for, and we were looking in the wrong fields. But associates will leave different companies. It doesn't matter about, the monetary is the biggest important thing, but if you have other companies that have better benefits, like we were talking about before, they would leave. For instance, some candidates will leave for a quarter less if they get free coffee at a different job. I know I won't go anywhere because the job that I work at gives us free coffee. So I would not leave that job for anything because I love my coffee. But just some simple things like that. And then alternate solutions to explore, like, obviously you could adjust pay rates, but you can start lower, but have like performance-based pay raises. Like if you've worked for, let's say you've worked your 90-day evaluation, give them an increased pay raise then. Show that they're a good candidate. You could start low then, pay them based off of their performance, things of that nature. You could judge it that way. To adjust criteria for candidates, what are the absolute must-haves? Obviously you're at a front desk or any sort of vocal point. They want to have good communication skills. For example, would you consider fewer years of experience if a candidate is proficient in that skill? If you're looking at front desk associates, would you consider only like maybe 1 year as a host as opposed to 5 years at front desk? You know what I mean? But that is pretty much it for that slide. There you go. Sorry.
All right, so in conclusion, the best way to secure your top talent is to kind of find your balance for your right pay. Look at it from perspective when we talk about the right pay. Look at those alternate things that come with that pay. You get free whitewater rafting, you get discounted, rates at our sister properties, if it's a hotel chain of something. Look at the pay as a whole. Find the right skill sets. Think about those transferable skill sets. There are a lot of people out there that are on unemployment that might not be from the leisure and hospitality bucket. They could be from the construction trades. Do you need somebody that can maintain your property? Do you need somebody that can, tinker on your, if you're a golf club and you have, golf carts, or, you're the whitewater rafting folks. You need people that have that strong physical labor to get those rafts up and down off that van. To take folks on those trips. So look at it from that perspective, and then just, trying to find that right person. And when you find that right person, make them feel as best part of that team as you can, so that they don't want to go to work anywhere else. They want to be a part of you and your club. They want to be a part of you and your group. Shameless plug for us. So, we are Express Employment Professionals. We do have an office in Lemont Furnace in the Fayette Economic Building. We are here to help you and support you in whatever business way needs that you have. We have a number of workforce solutions that we can be a part of. So reach out to us. Our swag is all over the tables. So thank you.
Thank you. So Ann and I are sitting in the back room and we're chatting back and forth kind of during the presentation. And one of the things that we said was that this was probably, for some folks, a little hard to hear. Undoubtedly, because those wages are a little higher than I think that many people anticipated going into the year. But I think it's really important to know what to look at and how to approach your hiring. We have another presentation, which Ann's going to talk about in just a minute. So Amy, this is your 30-second warning, or a little bit longer than that actually. Before we do that though, we have a couple of guests in the room with us, and I really shouldn't even call them guests. We are fortunate in Fayette County to have a very invested Board of Commissioners. That is not like the norm in a lot of counties. But our commissioners are here with us for meetings, whether it's tourism or healthcare, general business. They're here to support us. And they're here today, and I did want to give them a microphone and let them talk for a couple of minutes, more or less to introduce themselves, so like Twitter style. So let me introduce first Commissioner Vice Chair Vince Casides.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. Looks like we have a really good cross-section of tourism-related people here, and having all the minds here today that have a part in tourism, I think this is a great way to get the summit back started again. I hope that you would do this, and I know Muriel's got a full plate. The she did restart the tourism summit along with the monthly tourism meetings with the Tourism Alliance. You know, it's one of our top industries, as you all know, and we need to hone it, make it as best it can be, and all prosper from it. You know, we have all the ingredients for world-class tourism, historic tourism, recreational tourism. That's what Fayette County is known for, but we can always be better in bringing everybody together and discussing all the different nuances of this, I think makes our efforts even better. And, you know, my goal as a commissioner to see maximum tourism promotion. I think we've done a lot in the last couple of years. We opened a second tourism promotion office in Connellsville along the bike trail. Of course, we have one in the mountain. Our hotel tax has really been a shot in the arm to many of your organizations, whether nonprofit or for-profit entities and historical societies, you name it. All we've given a lot of money out the last 10 years or so, and millions of dollars, and I think it's helped build a broader foundation for tourism. So I think we're on the right track. I'm glad to see the summit is back in place, and hopefully the ideas and the things we discussed today can better our efforts. Thank you.
And Commissioner, Second Vice Chair, almost like formal titles today. Scott Dunn.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming out for this all-important topic. And I want to thank the Chamber, Go Lower Highlands, and the National Road for putting this off. And we need to keep up the conversation that is tourism in Fayette County. And, as we listen to, Vince and I sit here and listen, our job is to facilitate and to support what you guys are doing. And it is to continue not only to promote, but to build more tourism assets. I know one of the things that we've talked about is the Sheepskin Trail, and we are committed to having a 34-mile trail from Connellsville to Morgantown, West Virginia, that will be the connector of the West Virginia and the Pennsylvania system. And I think the economic impact of that's going to be huge, because we do see the economic impact of tourism, of our bike trails, in particular, the Great Allegheny Passage. The most recent economic study for the 150 miles of the Great Allegheny Passage, there's $121 million in economic activity, and it creates 1,400 jobs. That's pretty significant. So now let's prorate that for the Sheepskin Trail, the little 34-mile trail. That's $27 million. That's all entirely in Fayette County, by the way. $27 million of economic activity. They would pay $4.3 million in state, local, and federal taxes, and that would create 300 jobs in Fayette County. That's what a bike trail can do. So we will continue with that, and not only do we see it in the studies, we see it empirically. We know right now there are 4 or 5 multi-million-dollar projects along the Great Allegheny Passage within the next few years. That's going to happen. We also see right now in the city of Connellsville, probably the most economically impacted city from a bike trail standpoint, other industries now coming there because they see the growth that's going to happen in Connellsville. There are 2 other groundbreakings that are happening right now in building. So the other part that excites me about the tourism is in building these assets is that builds our quality of life. Yeah, we get to have people come here, but the people who work these jobs and the people who live in Fayette County also get to take advantage of all these things. And it builds our quality of life. And we just had a thing, we just had to talk about, you can now work where you can live and play, and that's the one bright thing that COVID taught us, was that you can do this now. So as we focus on our outdoor amenities, I always start these tourism meetings with 3 words at the top of I read it at the top of the paper, and it's 3 words, and it's tell our story. And the most important word there is our. And we're going to tell our story, the story that is Fayette County. And we get to do that in a variety of ways, not only our historical significance, our culture and our tradition, our art, our music and our dance. We are in the Fiddler's Hall right now. And there you go, the home of the Western Fayette County Fiddlers, an organization that's been in existence for 50 years. And that is the music, that is our mountain music, that is Fayette County. Our jobs, we have Touchstone here, that if you want to go learn how to be a blacksmith, you can go to Touchstone and do that right now. Our food and our drink and our language and our hobbies and our sports. We get to tell all these stories and have them resonate with our visitors. And then they're going to go back and tell their friends. And then they're going to come back. So please, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. This is great. And I didn't mention, I actually have agriculture written down here since all the farmers are over at this table. But thank you all for coming out, and let's keep up the topic, and let's keep it going, and let's build tourism in Fayette County.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we've circled right back around about telling the story, and each of us is a good storyteller, so I think it all resonates. And I think too, finding employees, I will say and agree with Muriel, those numbers were shocking, but you need to see them. And sometimes it's like, well, where can I find an employee? And sometimes it's right in your own backyard, and sometimes it's being able to show them something that maybe they haven't seen since they went to, a school field trip. Oftentimes people will say, well, I went there when I was in 4th grade or 5th grade and da-da-da-da-da. And I think one of the good examples that we have, and they're going to share with you just the way they do it, and maybe you'll pick up some pointers. I've asked Fallingwater to join us because they have a Fayette County Day. I just assumed it was to get everyone in there for free as they wanted to, but there's a method to their madness, so to speak. So Amy's going to come up here. She's the manager of school programs and outreach, and share with us the why, but also to share with us how it has benefited one of our major attractions here in Fallingwater and for the region. Amy, come on up. Thank you.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Amy Humbert and I do manage school programs and outreach at Fallingwater. I have worked there pretty much half my life, 37 years, very much grown up there. I started just about when I was 10. So it is a great place to work, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about our school programs, some of our outreach, and how those things have benefited us. First of all, how many of you have visited Fallingwater before? Oh, good, really pretty much everyone in the room. So Fallingwater was a vacation home that belonged to the Kaufman family of Pittsburgh. They were a wealthy family, owned Kaufman department store, as many of you may know, and it was a vacation home, so they never lived there full time. The house was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1935, and it is considered to be one of his best examples of organic architecture. He designed the building to reflect the site, to fit into the waterfall. The Kaufmans thought they were going to get a house that would look at the waterfall and be down below, and he wanted them to actually live with the falls. The shape of the building, the ledges that form the layers of the house, those are taken really from the waterfall itself. In this photo, it's a little bit too bright in here, I think, for you to see, but that rectangular shape very much reflects those layers of rock underneath the building. Because Wright designed Fallingwater in response to that landscape at Bear Run, Fallingwater helps visitors observe the natural beauty of our local landscape. The house could not exist anywhere else. It's perfectly suited and scaled for its site over that waterfall. The Kaufmans enjoyed Fallingwater as a vacation home, and it was a retreat from the city, which they lived in Pittsburgh during the week, so this was very much an escape for them to come out to the mountains. Edgar Kaufman Sr. and Lillian passed away in the mid-1950s, leaving the house to their son, Edgar Kaufman Jr., who used it as a vacation home himself up until 1963, when he entrusted it to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. And we are a private, nonprofit nature conservancy. We're based out of Pittsburgh, so we're not really in the business of maintaining house museums as a rule. Fallingwater is a very unique property for us, but we have helped to establish many state parks in the state, including the state's largest state park, which is Ohiopyle. In fact, Edgar Kaufman Sr. actually gave some of the money to help purchase Ferncliff Peninsula and get Ohiopyle State Park started. When Edgar Kaufman Jr. was dedicating Fallingwater and entrusting it to the Conservancy in '63, he said that Fallingwater is a house by man, for man, not by a man, for a man. He felt it had educational value, and he wanted it to make it available for as many people as possible. That was extremely important to him, that everyone could have a chance to come and see the house and learn about how a person could live in harmony with nature. Today, Fallingwater is part of the WPC. It is a nonprofit, and we have an educational mission, which is very, very important to us. I realize that today is intended as a discussion of marketing strategies, but our initiatives to connect with our local community are educational first and foremost. Not only for our neighbors to learn about Fallingwater, but also for us to learn about you and learn how we can support you. We've developed some interesting ways to connect, from free admissions for Fayette County Day. Fayette County Days have been offered since probably sometime in the 1960s. We now offer them both in the spring and in the fall. So if you live in Fayette County, the tours are completely free that day. And we also have developed some business partnerships that have helped support our school programs, which I'll get back to in a moment. So we have a photo of the Kaufman family. So it's Edgar Kaufman Sr. on the left, Edgar Kaufman Jr. in the middle, and Lillian Kaufman, and that's a photo taken on the bridge just by the house. The Kaufmans were very, very close to their neighbors. It was not uncommon. There's an anecdote that Mr. Kaufman would go out for a horseback ride and just stop at neighbors' houses and go in and sit down and have coffee with them and talk to people. And the invitation was mutual. Neighbors were invited to come to Fallingwater and visit there on the grounds as well. Some of the immediate neighbors would help to care for and watch over the house for the Kaufmans. Many of them were employed by the family. Some of those employees went on to work for the Conservancy later when the house opened to the public. And when the house was actually under construction, the Kaufmans hired local laborers, local workers to help build it. And some of the names that are on the screen are a few of the names that we know actually worked on the construction of the house. This is a slide that we often show to school students because those are names that many of you probably recognize. They're names that are pretty common in Fayette County. And for students, we find it helps kind of get them excited and find a connection to the house because they can go home and ask their families if they have relatives that actually worked on the home. And this is actually a recent photo taken just a couple of weeks ago from our first Fayette County Appreciation Day, which was on March 19th. And as I said, that's a tradition that dates back to the 1960s. So we do invite neighbors for free tours during that day. It's, if you're interested in coming, an event that I would highly recommend getting at reservations well in advance for, because we have been selling out for them. But pictured in the photo, the reason why we're showing this is because it features the owners of Ohiopyle Coffee Roasters, who is a local business, of course, and they are actually our exclusive coffee provider for the site this year. So on a typical Fayette County day, we see hundreds of Fayette County residents. The next one is scheduled for Sunday, November 19th. We're already starting to take reservations for that because the March date sold out pretty far ahead. And then last, we also offer fully funded field trips through a program that we call Right in Our Backyard. And that's actually a program that I manage. It started back in 2005. Now, I've worked at Fallingwater since 1986. During the entire time that I've worked there, we have always offered free tickets to public schools in Fayette County. Our visitation for free school tickets in Fayette County prior to 2005 was 500 students a year. The problem was busing. Even though we could offer the free tickets, the schools would not come because they could not afford the transportation. So the first thing we did back in 2005 was we became an educational improvement organization with the DCED. So we were able to then accept accept donations from businesses who would in turn get a tax credit. And that actually worked really well for a couple of years. In fact, one year we had visitation of around, I think at highest, around 1,500 students. Pretty much saw at least one field trip from, I think, almost every school in Fayette County. So that was very, very highly successful. Until the tax credit started to pretty much dry up. They're still there, but we're not getting the amount of money from them that we used to. So our former director, Linda Wagner, came up with another idea to help get money coming into that fund. And so we have a program called Lodging Partners in Education. And it's a program where local businesses, local hotels, for instance, can pay to be on our website, which gets them a lot of traffic. And then those fees that they pay go back into that fund. And so once again, we're now able to really support schools, still offer the free tickets, and we can also then pay for the transportation, which is a huge hurdle for schools. I'm going to show you a photo. So that's what our lodging and travel information page looks like on our website. The business partnership, as I said, was designed by Linda Wagner. At the time, our neighboring hotels and lodging options were looking for a way to advertise to Fallingwater visitors directly. Likewise, we were looking for a way to be able to give more information about lodging, because that's something that we get a lot of questions from about visitors. So now we're able to direct visitors to our website, tell them to take a look at the lodging page, and that drives a lot of traffic to it, and it's helped businesses in the area quite a bit. So that's the initial page, but then once you click into it, then you get a little bit more information. It takes you directly to the list. And so this is showing the different partners that we have in education. So they pay an annual fee to be listed on our website as a partner, and then 100% of the fees fund the field trips for K-12 students in the area. Of course, during the pandemic, field trips pretty much ceased, ground to a halt. So our educational programs for school students evolved into virtual field trips, which is something that I've been running, and those have been really very exciting. We did have a lot of local schools participate in them, and we were able to offer those virtual field trips to them at no charge because we could pay for them from that fund. However, the other thing that we saw was quite a bit of interest from students across the country. Students who may never have the opportunity to visit Fallingwater in person, we could offer a virtual field trip to. And so we've still been continuing to get quite a bit of interest from schools outside of the area. And then the reason why we have the little gnome up is because another program that we run is called the Gnome House Design Challenge. And it's a program that takes students through the architectural design process using a gnome as their client. And that's been very, very successful. Once a year in May, we have kind of a science fair type symposium where students who have participated are able to come and display the model that they created on site. And not only do we have local students participate, but we actually have students from all over the world. And we have a GIS map that we can kind of show to the students where there are gnome houses all over the world. So that's really been quite a lot of fun. And that's actually a shot from last year's symposium. And so the students are invited to come and display their models. And then local students are able to participate in that symposium for free. We offer a tour for them that day too. We kind of end up usually getting a mix of local students and then also students from kind of around the country. And then finally, last year we got back into going into libraries again, which is something we have done in the past. But of course the pandemic kind of brought that to a halt. But we were able to go back into libraries and offer different types of workshops for local areas. They were at no charge to the libraries themselves. Last year we were at Uniontown, Connellsville, and we've also been able to go back into other organizations like the Connellsville Canteen and offer lectures for them as well. And that helps to draw quite a lot of interest, and it's great to be able to get back out into the community too. And job openings. That's a list of the current jobs that we are looking to fill on site. A lot of our work is, of course, seasonal. The peak season being really from probably about May until about the end of October. Although a lot of the jobs run a little bit longer, actually, than that. And then for the last slide, we'll just go back to the first image. Are there questions that any of you have that you would like to ask? Yes. We do have an uptick in field trips, yes. A number of them. I don't think a lot of the local schools, not this year, a lot of the local schools have not quite come back. They're starting to, but I think they've not been able to take a field trip in so long. A lot of them are kind of looking to go to Pittsburgh and things. But in general, field trips are back, and it's nice to have the students on site again. So. I'm going to defer to Jenny Wagner, who's our visitor. She wanted to know for a lodging partner what the annual fee is to be listed on the website. Yes.
Have to sell independently. So each of the partners might pay a little bit different. For instance, you saw Nemacolin and the Summit on there. They are our highest paid because they have the highest number of rooms, and that is $5,000 for a year. And it will scale down based on the number of rooms you have. A bed and breakfast with 4 rooms would be $2,500. So it would be anywhere in between those 2 ranges is what we do. It is a tax deduction though, so it's actually listed as a donation or a contribution towards the fund rather than a marketing expense. 100% of that money does go for the YOB program, right in our backyard program, to cover for the school children to get here, their transportation and their tours.
Mark?
So when you do your Fayette County Day, do you also try to recruit employees at that time?
We have. It's a little tricky in November because we're just getting ready to close. But yes, we have had information out about, coming to work there. And we have, I think, over the years had a few employees. We've also, even just from the school programs, had employees come back. When the schools come, one of the things the students do is they have to write an essay about their experience. Well, I remember having an essay from a girl in 4th grade, and a few years later she came back and was a tour guide. So that's pretty interesting to see that come back around. Yes.
For high-risk children. So I was wondering, are you guys willing to do community programs, tours? Because I also teach the urban gardening and foraging club there, and we're looking for agriculture things for kids to do, but more local. Because we were thinking about going to DC, but if you guys offer that, how do you get more information? How do you sign up? How do I sign the kids up? How do I get on the list?
I can give you my card. And would it be something during the summer that you would be interested in doing? Okay. Yeah, I'll give you my card. You're welcome. Anything else?
Will you do that for other organizations that support children along the lines of One Voice, One Community, you have Verticals in Brownsville, East United Community Center? I mean, are there does that program go to translate to those organizations as well?
Yeah, that's not something we've done in the past. Something we'll have to take a look at and talk about, though. We have group rates and things that we offer, but as far as doing the free tickets, that's something I'll have to look into, but I think it's an interesting idea to be able to offer it beyond just to public schools. Mm-hmm. Never been there. Yeah. Right.
It's interesting to hear one of the conversations we've been kind of having in the circle from the beginning. I'll switch back to you in just a second. And one of the things I think that from the Tourism Alliance perspective, I know from the commissioner's perspective, one of the things we want to hear throughout the day today are barriers, because you can't overcome a barrier unless you know that it exists. So to hear some of the barriers is important to us. I'd like to thank Amy for joining us today. I think that the information you shared from Fallingwater is really important. I think the school programs are awesome and a way to look at bringing in employees through the normal programming you do every day. Don't forget, if you have a school group come in or a group of high school students come in, be sure to talk about what job openings you have, because some of those folks coming through the doors will make your best employees. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
I very much appreciate it. Anybody else hungry? It smells so good. But we're not going to eat yet, so don't get too excited. Couple of minutes, and really just a couple of minutes. So when you walked in the door today, everybody I told when you walked in the door, I said, let your heart, follow your heart and pick out a. All right. So here's your challenge. Before we eat lunch, as you kind of clean up your area so that you're ready to sit down to lunch, is you got to find your duck partner. And by the way, I have an orange duck that has a number 4 on it. So take a couple of minutes and find your partner. If you don't have a partner, come up and let me know. You two are partners.
Yeah, so we walked in at the different times.
I was here
I said,
first.
oh my gosh, you didn't say no, I did.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Get to know each other. That is really weird.
It is.
It does. Right over there. Go get one, both of you. I have a 4. What do you have? You have my orange duck. You can hang with us. There's another Minecraft duck out there.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a number on it.
Look, we're 4 pairs. We know each other. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He was just here. Nobody else is here.
One place had ducks.
PA water.
Yeah, and I had to bring 5 of them back to the office, or I'd have been.
We'll hook you up with a couple more before the end of the day. I have some more over there.
I can't just bring one back to my desk, and they're all like, Kathy, okay.
There's some right there. Go get the rest of them for the other girls. There are your duck pairs. Yay! Did everybody find their duck pair? Oh, hi, Laura. How are you? Somebody told me to pick a duck. Go pick a duck that looks just like this, and then you guys can chat. It is. I mean, I think we have a lot of conversation to have. I think Ann already talked to Steve from Right House. I think we're going to have a duck pair. You cannot until you take food with you. Okay, because there's so much food over there. No, this is just to get everybody out there. So really just easy facilitated networking. So everybody likes ducks. Like a green duck. Just introduce yourself and talk. Huh? All right. Did everybody find your duck partner and introduce yourself? Yes? Here's the cool thing. You get to keep your ducks. And hopefully, you met a new friend. Friends forever. Just meet your new friend. You can keep your duck forever.
I registered for this day, and I registered as Christina Becker, but see, I had to handwrite Christina.
What is it saying underneath? Down. Sorry, Chris. Come on. It was late Friday. We were trying to get out of the office. All right. If everybody kind of wants to circle back to your table. All right, if everybody wants to circle back to your table or at least settle for a second. I have to walk over here real quick and then we'll move on to the next thing. Are the breakfast pastries still here somewhere? I need a muffin. I just need one. Okay. So if I can have your attention again. All right. Did I do that? Did we do that together? All right. You want to know the power of social media? Did I give everybody's attention? Want to know what the power of social media is? It is Erica Miller's birthday, and I don't have a cupcake, but I have a muffin. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Erica. Is it anybody else's birthday that we just don't have your social media by chance? Because I'd hate for that to happen and be like, oh, they ignored me. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. It was just kind of networking. You were supposed to meet somebody and you get to keep your ducks, so that's cool. You already knew Kathy. We'll see. You can find a different duck if you want. There's other duck pairs. All right, so we're going to move to lunch here, and kind of what we wanted to do through lunch is to have a little bit of kind of facilitated conversation. I want to talk a little bit about the stuff we've done today so far. We already have plans for a couple of future events. I want your input on that. But mostly we want you to relax and eat a nice lunch. So I think we're ready to start, correct? All right, then, we can just start with the first table, head on up, get your lunch, sit down, relax, and enjoy.